Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Not satisfied, attorney calls for another review of fees for lawyers in the Health Ministry awaiting WHO's approval before vaccinating 5 to later in sports. West Indies women's opponents revealed for the World Cup qualifiers. Giovanni Dennis, and here are the details. Still not enough. That response from at least one attorney involved in the One Don Gang trial. This following changes to the legal aid fees. Attorney at law Alexander Shaw says the increase is not in line with what was discussed with the Justice Minister. Sandy Williams reports.
Grateful, but not necessarily content. The reaction of attorneys providing legal aid in the One Don Gang trial. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck announced changes in the legal aid fees, which will see attorneys in complex criminal matters, such as the One Don Gang trial, receiving $50,000 more. Mr. Chuck gave an outline in Parliament on Tuesday.
So we have added 50,000 more to the monthly rate. But more importantly, Madam Speaker, we have detailed what constitutes a month. And also, Madam Speaker, we have removed the cap of 6 months, because if the matter goes on for 9 months, then the attorneys would work in 3 months without any remuneration. So what we have done, Madam Speaker, is to increase the first month from 300,000 to 350,000 for senior attorneys, 200,000 to 250,000 for junior attorneys, and subsequent months 250,000 and 150,000.
But attorney at law Alexander Shaw believes the Justice Minister may have to revisit those changes. Mr. Shaw says the increase is not in line with what was discussed in the meeting with the Justice Minister and that it is still inadequate.
It's still like a pound of flesh for not even an ounce of blood. So we are awaiting a meeting with the Minister to highlight some of the concerns that we still have.
In addition, Mr. Shaw says the new limitations have created some reservations.
Particularly what constitutes a month. We're at our wit's end that you are required to be in court every day or at least 75% of the time for $150,000 a month, knowing well that this amount, the compensation, cannot even shake your expenses. And an attorney who is absent from court still has to comb through that day's evidence. So it matters not. But we will have to have a follow-up meeting with the minister.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
In a related story, lawyers at the public bar should get more pay. That comment from Attorney General Marlene Malahou Fort speaking in Parliament on Tuesday. Codian Barrett has that angle.
Following the announcement that attorneys in complex criminal matters will get a raise, the Attorney General Marlene Malahou Fort says consideration must also be given to paying more money to lawyers in the public sector, which includes prosecutors.
My call to the Minister of Justice, as I did privately, now publicly, that in the next round of review, it just cannot be right for the scales to be so unbalanced. The lawyers at the public bar, on both sides, at the criminal bar and at the civil bar, they handle a lot of weighty, complex matters. The volume is great. I am putting it on record in the Parliament.
Justice Minister Delroy Chuck agreed.
What is being paid to public sector lawyers is more than shameful. And the sad thing is that we're losing some competent persons in the public sector because they're so inadequately paid. And so, in all sincerity, Madam Speaker, I lose a fair amount of good persons. Just recently I heard of a few more who are leaving because they're getting better paid in the private sector as attorneys and probably doing less work for better pay than they're getting in the public sector.
He said it will be conveyed to the Minister of Finance. The House Speaker also commended the Attorney General for raising the matter.
Right here at home in the Parliament, we have lost, we will continue to lose, and right here we should not be afraid as members of Parliament to do as the Attorney General has done this evening. Speak clearly and forthrightly about remuneration for people who serve the public.
Cody and Barrett, TVJ News.
To other news, Southeast St. Andrew Member of Parliament Julian Robinson is seeking answers from Prime Minister Andrew Holness regarding a retreat held recently for senior employees and board members of the Heart NSTA Trust. Mr. Robinson tabled the questions in the House of Representatives last evening. He wants information on the venue of the retreat and the cost to taxpayers. The Prime Minister has ministerial responsibility for the Heart NSTA Trust. Reactions this afternoon to news that the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, has approved the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine for children ages 5 to 11. Locally, at least one medical professional is insisting that the focus should still be on inoculating the vulnerable.
Advisors to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, yesterday unanimously supported broad use of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine in children ages 5 to 11 years. In Jamaica, high school students have been receiving the Pfizer vaccine as the push for children at all levels to return to face-to-face classes continues. But it might take a time before children 5 to 11 in Jamaica can roll up their sleeves. We spoke with Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton.
Not every decision that the CDC makes is seen as a decision for us. We tend normally to be more guided by the World Health Organization. The CDC, as you know, is the U.S.'s equivalent. The World Organization is a global body. Then we wait on that advice and then we take it from there.
President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, Winston Smith, says while the move is a major step towards face-to-face learning, parents must also play their part.
A child is not able to go to the vaccine center and make themselves available and say, here am I, vaccinate me. Children are under the direct supervision of their parents and guardians. So it is incumbent on the parents and guardians now to have a total buy-in into what is happening, what is necessary in order to facilitate the full resumption of face-to-face interaction so that our students can benefit from educational opportunity in a holistic way.
In the meantime, the director of the Windsor Medical Center in St. Andrew believes despite the breakthrough, the focus should remain on getting the most vulnerable among the population vaccinated first before a program to inoculate children.
Under 12-year-olds are not the ones who are going to be in hospitals from COVID-19. Give it to the obese, give it to those who have chronic diseases such as hypertension, diabetes, and the elderly, or even over age 40, 45. Where we know that the risk of serious illness is greater.
Herman Green, TVJ News.
And parents and guardians of high school children are being urged to take the students for their share of the close to 200,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine now on the island. The call comes from the leadership of the Education Ministry. There's also a fresh commitment from the Andrew Holness-led administration to ban all forms of corporal punishment in the country.
We're asking as many people. We have enough vaccines for everyone who wants to be vaccinated. So the best way for us to normalize our education system is through vaccination.
Another plea from the country's education leadership for persons to get vaccinated and help bring back face-to-face classes to all schools. The next few weeks are seen as critical for high schools, with close to 200,000 doses of Pfizer vaccines now in the island and available for the benefit of secondary students. As things stand, secondary students are only allowed to be on their school campus if they are doing labs or practicals for CXC and CAPE, while thousands of students in more than 300 primary and infant schools will start face-to-face classes next Monday.
The biggest challenge we have, however, is the high schools. The government has a policy that says unless we get 65% of the school population vaccinated, then we cannot have face-to-face there. And then there's also the issue of the associated staff in the school system, the teachers, the administrators, and so forth.
But the pandemic is not the only ongoing threat to the well-being of students. So too is abusive parents. And the government says it wants to protect children from abuse in the home, which is why it will change the law on corporal punishment.
One of the big issues that we have to contend with is how do we empower parents, for example, to not use violence as a means of instruction. for example, corporal punishment. This is something that we plan to ban eventually when we reform the Child Care and Protection Act. But while we're doing that, we have to give them the tools to empower them to use a different type of method of discipline.
Planning has also started for a program known as the Good Parenting Campaign that will seek to reinstall good values in children.
The importance of enforcing education, a culture of education within the society, the importance of manners and respect and those sort of things which have diminished over the years within our society. And I think the National Good Parenting Campaign is going to address those.
Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
For a second consecutive day, Jamaica's COVID-19 positivity rate is below the 10% mark. On Tuesday, the country's positivity rate was 8.6%. 46 new confirmed cases were reported in the last 24 hours from 816 test samples. The overall case count is now 89,216. According to the Ministry of Health, 260 people are hospitalized with the virus. 14 are in critical condition, while 24 are severely ill. There are 27,907 active cases on the island. In the meantime, 172 more people have recovered from COVID-19, increasing the overall recovery count to 58,439. Meanwhile, 3 more people died from the respiratory illness. The death toll now stands at 2,249. And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when we return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. The St. James Health Department says the recent rainfall in the parish has resulted in an increase in the mosquito population. According to the parish manager for the St. James Health Department, Lennox Wallace, this is a cause for concern. However, he says teams have been deployed in all 4 health districts in the parish to tackle known breeding sites.
Various methods of fogging. We have some ULV machines, 3 ULV machines that we are currently using that spans a greater distance than the hand swing fogging machines that will cover a wider area and cover it more quickly. Our general vector control team, along with these ADs, task workers, are doing a fantastic job, and I'm confident that they will keep the Aedes aegypti index to a minimum.
He's assuring residents not to be alarmed, as the health department is doing all in its power to prevent a dengue outbreak. In the meantime, Mr. Wallace addressed concerns raised about garbage collection.
Director, Mr. Gardner Edmondson, over the period, and we would have seen some improvements in the garbage collection. I understand that they have challenges similar to other agencies of cash flow to have trucks collect on a weekly basis. But there's just one area that I receive complaints. I've spoken to him, and I've seen that area, Irwin area, that has improved.
And it's now time for the Business Minute. Here's Cody and Barrett.
Victoria Mutual Group is rebranding as it looks forward to expand its services. Group President and CEO Courtney Campbell shared some details.
The logo now is just a simple VM, which removes, as I said, the boundary of the circle, and it says that it's presented in a way that shows that we are the pulse, we are the heartbeat of our people, our members and clients.
We will have more in the Business Day this evening. And there was a decline in remittances to Jamaica in September when compared to last year. The Bank of Jamaica says that the $282 million in foreign exchange inflows was 17% or $41 million less than in September 2020. However, for the financial year to date, remittances amounted to $1.6 billion, an 18% increase. The largest source market for remittance flows was the U.S. Remittances from that country accounted for 70% of total flows, up from 67% a year ago. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody.
And here now is a preview of what's coming up in this evening's Health Report.
In this evening's Health Report, we look at unvaccinated men and COVID-19 vaccines.
COVID-19 infection causes what is known as a cytokine storm, which causes widespread inflammation in the body, including inflammation affecting the blood vessels. This inflammation decreases the generation of nitric oxide, a very important hormone that is necessary for blood vessel relaxation. And this can directly affect the ability of the blood vessels in the penis to relax and become engorged with blood. It also directly affects the testicle in that it affects the cells that produce testosterone.
That's the health report in Primetime News at 7. And now for today's Healthy Living tip. How to plan and prepare for your COVID-19 vaccination. Get vaccinated, regardless of whether you already had COVID-19. If you are getting a COVID-19 vaccine that requires 2 doses, be sure to schedule an appointment for your second shot. And people with moderately to severely compromised immune systems should receive an additional dose of mRNA COVID-19 vaccine after the initial 2 doses.
Time now for your top regional and international stories with Sandy Williams.
In the region, the 15-member Caribbean Community CARICOM grouping is observing CARICOM Energy Month 2021 amidst concern that energy remains a strategic priority for all CARICOM countries as the region confronts unprecedented challenges in a worsening climate and ongoing public health crisis. Head of the energy unit at the Guyana-based CARICOM Secretariat, Dr. Devon Gardner, says CARICOM Energy Month 2021 provides a clear and a present opportunity for CARICOM stakeholders as well as global partners who are interested in supporting sustainable energy development within the region to examine and agree on practical approaches for transitioning CARICOM countries to new energy ecosystems that support resilience building. On the international scene, Republican Glenn Yonkin defeated Democrat Terry Mcauliffe in the Virginia governor's race Tuesday night. He was 2.1 points ahead of Democrat Terry Mcauliffe with 99% of votes counted. Mr. Mcauliffe, who served as governor from 2014 to 2018, saw his opinion poll lead vanish in recent weeks. Yonkin declared victory before supporters in Chantilly early Wednesday morning. The ballot has been widely seen as a referendum on Joe Biden's presidency. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
And we now head to a quick break. When we come back, Simon Preston will have the midday sports. What's the top story?
Welcome back. It's now time for Midday Sports. I'm Simon Preston. The West Indies women's cricket team have been drawn in Group A of the World Cup qualifiers to face Ireland, Sri Lanka, the Netherlands and Papua New Guinea. Group B comprises Bangladesh, Pakistan, Thailand, the United States and the host nation Zimbabwe. The top 3 teams from each group will advance to the Super 6 stage of the competition. The top 3 teams in the Super 6 stage will qualify for the 2022 Women's Cricket World Cup in New Zealand. The qualifiers are set to run from November 21 to December 5. The Caribbean side will open their account in the qualifiers on November 21 against Papua New Guinea in Harare. The last time the West Indies missed out on an appearance in the Women's Cricket World Cup was in the year 2000. Elite track and field coach Raina Ryder is set to be investigated by the US Center for Safe Sport after multiple complaints of sexual misconduct were made against him. According to the British newspaper The Guardian, Ryder's lawyer Ryan Stevens says these allegations are unvetted and unproven. Jamaicans Christopher Taylor, Omar McLeod, Brittany Anderson and Akeem Bloomfield trains with Ryder's Tumbleweed Track Club in Florida. Jamaica's rugby league team have remained 20th in the world in the November edition of the International Rugby League World Rankings. In October, the Reggae Warriors fell 56-4 to England A, but held world number 9 Scotland to a 30-30 draw. Jamaica also remains number 1 in the Caribbean and number 2 in the Americas region behind the United States. The top 10 ranked teams in the world reads New Zealand, Australia, England, Tonga, Fiji, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, France, Scotland and Lebanon. The Reggae Warriors will make their debut at the Rugby League World Cup next year in England. They have been drawn in Group C alongside New Zealand, Ireland and Lebanon. And finally this afternoon, a Jamaican offensive tackle Matt Peart has signed a new contract with the New York Giants in the NFL until the end of the 2022 season. Despite not qualifying for the playoffs last season, the 6'7" player earned this deal after featuring in 8 of the Giants' 16 games last season. The 24-year-old spoke about some of the goals he has for his second season in the league.
Just overall, it's being a better student in the game. Just working with Coach Sale, Coach Wilk, even Coach Flats, and some of the vets like Billy, Nate. Just understanding how they see the game, and incorporating it to how I approach the game as well, and especially game planning. I feel like I've made huge strides in that regard. Bigger, faster, stronger. Even more in that, just working on my overall technique.
That is it for your midday sports report. I'm Simon Preston. Giovanni, it is over to you.
Thanks, Simon, and that's it indeed for the midday news. Join us at 7 for primetime news. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, have a good afternoon.